24 Driving Business.
We'll be back from the break. You're still watching Business Today. Now we talk matters checking the insolvency threat, as the Uganda Registration Service Bureau has today held discussions with judicial officers to equip them with revised innovative international insolvency practices. The corporate governance has been termed as one of the best rescue mechanisms to rehabilitate companies under the insolvency stay afloat. Now we have more in this report.
Under the Insolvency Act 2011, ground is laid for provision for liquidation, administration and reorganization of the insolvent companies to aid management of assets and debt crisis. Judicial officers, registrars and other stakeholders have been today brought up to speed with salient features under the insolvency law.
Right now it is all about how to help this business remain afloat. And this is what I've been saying. This is what I said all along, that even for the bankrupt and insolvent estates, there are mechanisms under the law that are aimed at helping these businesses to remain afloat. So one of the corporate rescue mechanisms is administration. That's why I gave the example of UTL. That went into administration, and 5 years down the road, UTL is still afloat. Arrangements, they apply to individuals.
A given that creditors and stakeholders always act in furtherance of these objectives. Sometimes the reality is that actions of creditors are based on ulterior motives.
Uganda's insolvency crisis has largely had high-end companies such as Crane Bank plagued till winding up, and the likes of Uganda Telecom held in receivership for several years. In response to such precedents, URSB says corporate governance that fits within is more liable, especially since most of the businesses battle poor management and record crisis.
What is the corporate governance expectation or guideline within our context as Uganda, in a community where people are illiterate, where many entities are not registered even, where there's no records, where there's no record of accounts, where there are no contracts which are written, and people transact on trust, on issues of trust. So this is where we have a meeting of minds as regulators, as government regulating the environment, the insolvency regime.
The Registrar General further adds that the creditors should assess and rehabilitate a collapsing business, and advises transfer of branches for multinational companies to more favorable economic environments for them to thrive.
Company is in a region where there's no business, you say that this company or this supermarket has failed in East Africa or in Uganda because of the active local players. And you're like, let me take it to Southern Africa, where there are no competitive markets, where everyone buys in these supermarkets. So there's more business in Southern Africa than Eastern Africa or than Uganda. So these are the things that you assess to revive and save the company. And so these are the discussions that we're having with the judges and the justices and the registrars on how, when these matters are presented to them in the courts of judicature, how do they look at them?
Business rescue, restructuring, regulated entities, and other metrics such as sovereign debt are some of the talking points that drove this discussion between URSB, judicial officers, and other insolvency practitioners to help businesses stay afloat. Ronana Habwe, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
All right, now the unprecedented corporate company crisis previously held key entities such as the Uganda Telecom Limited and Crane Bank under receivership and bankruptcy respectively. Ronan Ahabwe has spared some time to sit down with the Uganda Registration Service Bureau's Robert Mugabe to comprehend the collaboration with the judiciary in emphasizing resilience. We have more.
Thank you, John Paul Sonko, and good evening to you, our dear viewers. Thank you for watching Business Today. My name is Rona Nahabwe, and today we have a guest, one Robert Mugabe, who is going to help us digest the issues of insolvency and liquidation. Now, insolvency is the inability of an individual or a corporate company to fail to pay their dues when they fall due. Now, we have learned, many people might not even know what this means. We have seen companies like Nakumat, UTL, Crane Bank, leave and exit just because they went bankrupt and they announced their bankruptcy. So today we want to understand some of the salient features in the insolvency law and what we need to know about it. How do we even arrive to it?
Thank you. Like you've rightly said, insolvency relates to companies failing to meet their financial obligations. You could be in business and tomorrow you are not able to pay your creditors. And eventually that inability leads you to insolvency. But we also have the other part where the individual, the person, me or you, fails to pay and they end up into bankruptcy. So those two go together, insolvency and bankruptcy.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, the law on insolvency is not necessarily new. Under the Companies Act previously, matters of the Companies Act, of companies were taken together with the insolvency issues. So over time there has been an evolution of the law and the insolvency matters have been removed from the Companies Act to make two separate areas.
As the director of insolvency at URSB, I believe that you have the expertise or you are an expert in this. If the law is there, the insolvency law is there, and there are insolvency practitioners, we see the judges are being trained on how best they can, equip themselves with this practice. Why do we still have companies exit? Why is that? Why do we have companies like Nakumat, like I said, UTL, Crane Bank? Why do they exit? Why do they run bankrupt? Why do they have to arrive to wait until that time? Like, if the law should be able to, rehabilitate.
Well, thank you. You've already said it. The law is in place. There are even platforms in existence that companies and people can use, but still they get out of business. Why? Simple reasoning. The practices. You find the company is not able to adjust to corporate governance.
Okay.
So if you don't have corporate governance within your structures, it means you are not able to distinguish between, say, funds for the company and your own funds. You are not able to keep books of accounts, meaning even your tax obligations are not clear. Now, if your practices as a business are not clear, definitely you will not be able to be helped by the law. The law is in place, but it works by you making use of it. For instance, we have insolvency practitioners. Now, it's up to you, the owner of the business, to know where you are. It's like you are stepping in water. Step in the water and gauge where you are. If you feel you are getting drowned, then raise an alarm, call for assistance. How does it come about? Come to our offices. We shall guide you on, maybe show you a database for people who are registered as insolvency practitioners, from whom you can pick, and then they help you to manage your business. And here we are also trying to say that managing your business is interesting. You need to be alive to the fact that actually your business is irretrievable, or it is you can rehabilitate it, such that if you get an administrator, for instance, the administrator will come in to help you manage the entity, and gradually you clear your debts.
Now, I would like to pause you right there. They mentioned that insolvency should come in as a last resort. So what should I do first if I'm running low on accounting for my own?
Thank you. What the speaker was meaning is that don't rush to close your business.
Okay.
Closure should be the last resort. When things are not working out, start by trying to find how best you can restore confidence in your business. One of them is what I have already said, governance. If you didn't have structures in the organization, start by putting in the structures. Let there be audit.
Okay.
Let there be finance department. Let there be directors. Let there be a distinction between ownership and management.
Yeah.
Let there be checks and balances. Now, when you put such things in place, most likely you will help your business to stay alive. In other words, don't rush to kill your business. Just because you have debts, you failed to pay your debts. Don't say now I am dead. It's like a patient. Just because you are coughing, you should not say that I am now dead.
You're not broke, like they said. Insolvency is not broke. You're not broke.
You are not broke. You are simply not feeling well.
Yeah.
So rush to the hospital. This time, rush to URSB so that you can be taught the best practices. So some of them include management, others are skill development. You see, some businesses fail because they lack skills. And who lacks the skills? The owners, those who operate the businesses. So the focus should be, let there be proper governance, let there be skills, let there be other mechanisms like, I can give you a simple example. Everybody says, I am not doing well because I have no funds. You hear those stories of government should support us, government should do this. Well, government also has so many obligations. So when government is to help us, we also have to help ourselves.
But has government put in an enabling environment?
Yes.
Because they say that the biggest reason why these companies do not survive is because of the taxes.
No, the starting point is you, the owner of the business. Taxes, even from the days of the Bible says, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. So taxes will always be there, but before you pay tax, how are you managing your business such that your business grows and becomes even the best taxpayer? If you have seen, our colleagues in, I think URA have been having a program of the taxpayer of the year, who they even get awards. So how do you become a taxpayer of the year? Simply by running your business well, adopt best practices, then you grow. You get? When you adopt the best practices, you grow. For instance, I was telling about loans to grow business. People think of loans, then money from government, but actually there is money within the population, within business people, what one would call equity. So sometimes if you cannot get a loan from a bank, if the money from the government is still on its way, you can actually get a colleague like you and me. We put money together.
You merge.
We merge our money. Good. For lack of a better word, let's merge our money. Let's put our money in one pot, and then we develop this business. Other than me having my 1,000 here, you have your 1,000 there, he has his 1,000, and none of us is growing.
So how many companies do you have listed on insolvency as per now?
Interestingly, we don't have necessarily a list of entities that they are struggling. No, these companies are they are out there in the world making a business. What I can assure you is that as an office that registers businesses also, URSB has a big register of entities. Some of them are registered as business names, others are registered as companies. I think when I combine them, they must be moving towards 1 million businesses registered.
That are in insolvency?
No, that are registered, that are in the market doing business. But you see, the ones which are in insolvency, not everybody says let me rush to insolvency. So you cannot have a list of 20, 30 who are in insolvency. Instead, you may have a few who have come to you and they have already appointed people to help them manage their affairs. These are the people we are calling insolvency practitioners. Those are very few. They are a handful. But our focus is not to have a register of so much. Our focus is to save as many as possible. You get? And that's why we are saying that the current trend is no longer about growth. The current trend is about what can you do to keep your business. Number one, proper management. You get? Manage your business well. Meaning have systems. Let there be the audit department. Let there be, you know how people talk of, say, a school, or even the government, how government runs. There is an auditor, there is finance.
About this?
They do. Ugandans
are they aware? And by the way, the 70% of the business community, 70% are SMEs, and they are these small-holder businesses. They are not these corporate. So I'm worried for these SMEs because you said these are corporate companies that you're targeting.
No, we are not targeting them for the bad intentions. We are targeting them to help them grow. You get?
Okay.
To help them grow from small to big. You get? And actually, Ugandans are not necessarily, they don't lack knowledge. They have knowledge. They know that when you run things better, you get better results. That's why you see when you go downtown, you'll find so many businesses running. The only challenge may be that most of them are not maybe registered. So if they want to go to, say, a bank to look for a facility, maybe the bank may be saying, but who are you? Meaning they want to know whether you're registered.
Maybe
so people are there and they want to do business and they actually can do better. All they need is to keep hearing this information. Can they hear this message? You know the message about salvation. The more you tell people, the more they get saved. And that's what we are trying to do. Basically, our being here today is simply to tell people, our business communities, that you can survive in a business, things can go wrong, but you can actually return back to normal. All you need is to have the right interventions. I talked about private equity. Yeah. We have so many in the business. Why can't we pool resources and then we develop our companies? It sounds a bit...
Does that include for these foreigners also?
You see,
do you think they are willing to merge?
Foreigners?
These ones that come and live.
I don't want to call them foreigners. I want to call them investors.
Yeah.
Maybe investors who are from outside Uganda.
Yeah.
They are not necessarily foreigners, but they are from outside Uganda. Why am I not saying that they are foreigners? Because I'm trying to say that they contribute to our economy. When they come to Uganda, the tax they pay helps us to build roads, hospitals. So the main point is that these non-Ugandans who have businesses here, they are able actually to even get local Ugandans and combine. You know, merging effort is not only on money. It could be that, an example, you could be having land where you come from, and the investor coming on board, who's not a Ugandan, wants space where to do business from. So for you are providing land, they are providing money. So you see the effort. Yeah. You have land, but you cannot do anything with it. They have money, but they can't do anything with it because they don't have land. So you are combining your effort to grow a business. So the foreigners can actually work with locals, and then we develop our economy.
Let's highlight the key aspects in the insolvency law and what Ugandans need to know to, use it to the best of their advantage and save them from bankruptcy, so that we'll stop hearing stories of liquidation and all.
Well, I would say that traditionally we have always talked about wind up these companies and close.
Okay.
So the law is now running away from that. The law is saying, before you close this company, before you declare it dead, why don't you try to say administer it possibly? What we call administration. Now administration is aimed at keeping the company alive. And if you administer it very well, there are so high chances that the real business will be restored and the company will be restored and to get out of this process successfully.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Robert Mugabe, for the pleasure of your time. And I think one of the people there mentioned something about how people should regulate their wage bills and how they find a company is paying more than what they make. And you have highlighted something very important in the insolvency law about insolvency law about administration and, trying to rehabilitate these businesses to keep up and be brought back to their feet. Thank you so much again. And that's all we had for you in regards to the insolvency law and liquidation. Back to you in studio.
All right, that is Ronan Hawe with that particular insightful conversation. Now, besides that, we talk the Uganda-China business wars, as China and Uganda have enjoyed a robust trade and business relationship for the past years, with China being one of the country's biggest trading partners. However, there have been complaints of Ugandans facing harsh penalties and mistreatment when doing business in China, whilst working in China and Uganda-based companies. Bronia Katusime has more in this report.
Supposedly, Ugandans have been having a difficult time operating in China due to the harsh methods used by Chinese as well as enterprises in Uganda that are allegedly indulging in unfair commercial practices. These problems led to a discussion about the subject at a meeting involving the Chinese ambassador to Uganda, the head of the opposition, and legislators. The opposition leader and legislators expressed their worries at the discussion.
Have had a few complaints from some of the workers, Ugandan workers, in the Chinese factories about mistreatment. Okay, you need to encourage them to treat Ugandans. The Ugandans need these jobs. There's no doubt. We need these jobs, but they should be handled as people, treated well, respect their rights at employment. We hear issues like they are denied leave, they work for very long hours.
With remorse, some legislators reacted to the issue regarding sanctions such as 10 years in prison and the death penalty by demanding that the Chinese government consider bringing perpetrators to be punished by their country.
We need reciprocity, that the way Chinese want to be treated in Uganda is the same way they should treat Uganda nationals who exit to China for business, for tourism, for education, among others. We hear a lot of challenges that those who are apprehended on suspicion of offenses in China are not given a fair trial.
The Chinese government to return Ugandans to Uganda so that they can be prosecuted here.
The Chinese ambassador acknowledged the problems and made a commitment to investigate. He also appreciates its business links with Uganda and said that he will take steps to ensure that Ugandans doing business in China are treated fairly. He further mentioned that the Chinese government had put in place measures to stop Chinese enterprises doing business abroad from engaging in unfair business practices. He further mentioned that the Chinese government had put in place measures to stop Chinese enterprises doing business abroad from engaging in unfair business practices. They are to abide by the CSR and ethical business practices as practiced back home.
Certainly about Uganda, some mistreatment complaints in some factories. As I said properly, in some factories which are out of our sight, they come here by themselves. They set up small factories, and without our notice, the embassy, they did not report to us. Maybe, but once we find them, I know last year we received one report about complaining about the mistreatment of workers, a small factory. So we immediately reach out to the factory owners and ask them to cooperate with the authorities.
The dialogue between the Chinese ambassador to Uganda and the leader of opposition is a positive step towards addressing the concerns of Ugandans doing business in China and Chinese companies operating in Uganda. It is also hoped that the discussions will lead to concrete measures to promote fair and ethical business practices between China and Uganda. Brunia Katsime, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
All right, now moving on, the construction of houses and land clearing in Muyenga, Kampala have all been halted by the Minister of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, Judith Nabakova. She has also issued a warning to land squatters who are also falsifying land documents and titles, which is causing the community areas to suffer from poverty because of so much money which is being spent in court. We have more in this report.
Complaints of land grabbing have been registered by the Ministry of Lands, where fraudulent means of forging land titles have been employed to acquire land. As a result, a lot of money is lost in court cases when the affected parties attempt to seek for justice. According to Honorable Nabakova, land-related cases have drained people of their hard-earned money and billions of shillings lost in settling court cases and land evictions. Such payments include legal fees paid and other associated fines.
Tasobola kuba ye trending nga tulina agencies mandated to protect the citizens of Uganda. Whether oli mutuufu olina ebipapulo oba tobirina bakifeesi mubeesonyiwe. That's what I can say. Oba obirina oba wakoze otya bakifeesi mubeesonyiwe. Kubanga abantu kati tebakyagenda na mu kooti kufuna bipapula. Bibawa buyinza kujja kola bibakola. Agaabugamye nyina nsimbi zange kangende wendagande tebakifeesi bibiri oba kikumi. Mwe muyiike mukole omulimu nze ntwalewo. And as government we cannot allow that. There is a rule of law in the country and we want to use that. because we need.
Nabakova gave a 1-month ultimatum to have their land documents verified by the Buganda Land Board and ensure an amicable understanding is realized by all involved parties.
Toyina na chiwandiko, toyina any support about what you are alleging, then it was going to be very difficult. Sina bingi bya kwogera kubanga tutugenda kutandika kunoonyereza. I just want, I think 1 month can we be done? Commander? Yes, let us give
a victim of land grabbing incident said that this voice has not only affected their settlements but also their livelihoods, especially when people's gardens are mowed by bulldozers during land evictions. Nabako also revealed that government has issued a set of guidelines on how evictions shall be carried out legitimately instead of the rudimentary methods previously employed. This shall protect the bona fide occupant from eviction.
There is no doubt about it from what we have seen. I have instructed all activities to cease activities that were taking place on this land because it is highly contested. Let activities cease and let State House Anti-Corruption and Police Land Protection investigate this matter, because we need to know the titles, how they were got. If there was fraud, then we need to look at the issue of illegal eviction. What was the status before now clearing this area? And maybe probably we shall look at the documents from both sides, the Mutabingwa and then these other members of the family. We need to know, did they sell and now they are turning around? What is happening? Did the Mutabingwa buy the land illegally? Those are the issues we are going to look at. And once we get a report that has been highly investigated in a chronological order, then we shall be in position to make a conclusion on the way forward.
Nabakova said that the president is committed to protecting people from unlawful land evictions. The eviction guideline indicates that a bona fide occupant shall only be evicted due to non-payment of ground rent, and that such an action can only commence after 6 months from the issuance of the court order. Stories compiled by Samuel Kirimunda and Pedson Mumbere.
Now, Kosasi has stopped construction at the Nakawa and Tinda Junction. Reason being that the illegal commercial building that is still being done near the Spear Motors and Tinda Crossroads is being looked into by the Kampala Capital City Authority. Dorothy Chisaka claims that they would pursue the matter with the Kampala District Land Board since the operation is illegal and endangers human life because the site serves as a road reserve. We have more in this report.
There is an illegal construction going on around the Spear Motors in Tinda Junction. Kampala Capital City claims that they are not aware of this development and that there is a need to stop this illegal activity. This was realized during the Kosasi fieldwork supervision.
The drainage of this place will be affected, and it should be people who are living here were the ones who will be suffered. They started by dumping slowly water, soil here. This place was not like this. This was a full swamp. But now you can see what it is.
Going to enforce that this land, which is a road reserve, is not utilized by anybody else. Once a matter has been brought to our notice, we cannot ignore it. We are going to follow up and ensure that that justice is done for the citizens of Kampala.
Several city roads and junctions have been widened. According to reports from the Kampala Capital City Authority, Spear Motors Junction is under plans for upgrading too.
We start the work of the Kampala, Ginger.
We've taken notes. It has come to our notice.
Secure this place.
Yeah. We are going to
the drainage issues for us, we shall be the ones.
As a result, the authority has warned the residents against erecting structures in the road reserves which have been pegged. KCCA says that they have notified the owners of these properties along the roads.
And we are going to follow up with Kampala District Land Board, who issue land titles around Kampala.
The roads designed and road reserves pegged that were listed include Nakawa and Tinda Road, Nakawa Spear Motors Kira Road, among others.
And now that brings us to the end of business today. But first, let's have a rewind of our top stories.
In business today, Kenya bans on riots as depreciating shilling and high commodity prices push residents to streets. URSB moves to raise insolvency awareness among judicial officers, bankruptcy ultimately targeted. Emerging startups exploit venture capital opportunities as players still decry regressive tax regime and awareness.
Well, what can we say? The weather continues to be quite unfriendly for those doing outdoor businesses in Uganda. Not only that, as well as stressing into Rwanda, it is kind of the same atmosphere facing most of the business community. But we do wish you well in your business ventures, anywhere, wherever you are. We are Smart 24 TV, driving your business. I'm Joe Paul Sonko with Winnie Williams and Echo Tune Sign Language, coming in from Plot 42, Nile Avenue. Now, from the entire production, newsroom, and the editorial team, here we do wish you a good night and a good evening.